Here we go with the Thursday evening edition of Weather for Weather Geeks here on August the 13th. Hope you've had a good day, and I hope you were able to check out maybe some of the meteors last night. You could see a handful at least, before midnight if you're out in a dark spot. But of course, the peak was between midnight and sunrise this morning. If you missed them last night, you can still see some meteors tonight. Just because the peak was last night doesn't mean they just suddenly go away. You can definitely check out some meteors. We've got a mostly clear sky out there tonight, so if you happen to these things are hard to photograph. It's not easy at all. It's kind of like capturing lightning. But if you happen to be a pretty good photographer and are able to get some pictures, be sure to pass them along. Either put them on my Facebook or Twitter pages or send them to weatherpics@wfmj.com. Well, speaking of things in the sky, we've got a decent, although brief, glimpse of the International Space Station coming up this evening. This pass starts at 10:49, and this one's a little unusual in that it only lasts about 2 minutes. The space station will appear in the northwest sky at 10:49, reaching its maximum height above our heads at 10:51, and then it sort of disappears into the shadows. It doesn't just keep going. It'll just sort of vanish after it reaches its peak at about 36 degrees high up in the sky. But should be a nice clear night, so at 10:49, get out and check out the International Space Station whizzing overhead. I'll post about this again on social media coming up this evening. By far the best pass coming up will be Sunday evening with a really bright pass at 9:45. Now we're hoping for no clouds, and I think it should be a pretty clear night Sunday night. So real good pass of the space station seen Sunday evening coming up at 9:45, and even Saturday night's pass is a pretty good one at 10:38. You can sign up for alerts for the space station passes with several apps. Just look in the App Store on your smartphone. Findthestation.com, I think, is another good website. This particular website I use is iss.astroviewer.net, and you can put in your location and it gives you a list of space station flybys. All right, back to the weather. Boy, beautiful day today. We got up into the upper 70s today, as expected, 79. The high this afternoon, pretty much par for this time of the year. Average high is 80, down from 81. Our average highs have slipped 2 degrees now from their summertime peak. We've begun that slide, but it's a slow slide at first. Of course, the averages will slide a lot faster as we head into fall coming up here in a couple of months. The only game in town across the country is essentially the system moving across the Midwest, and this is what's going to track our way very late tomorrow and into tomorrow night and could bring us a shower or a thunderstorm. The heat dome is still out here across the middle of the country and out into the southwest. Nothing real unusual for August. Look at the heat extending up into Canada. It's even 100 in parts of southern Canada. It doesn't suddenly get cold at the border. Canada can get hot too, especially these prairies out here. This is exceptionally flat country, just like North Dakota, South Dakota here in the U.S. And it can get hot. They can get tornadoes up there as well. All right, our weather as we go through the next couple of days is going to be dominated certainly by a warming trend. We'll get into the mid-80s for tomorrow. What about the rain as that Midwest system approaches? I think during the daylight hours tomorrow, we're looking pretty good. Here's tomorrow, early afternoon. Simulated radar on the NAM here shows just a few cells here north of Lake Erie at 2 p.m. But as we go towards evening, here's 6 p.m. This front's going to start sagging in, and yeah, it could start to spark a shower or a thunderstorm in parts of northern Ohio as early as 5 or 6. But I think in our viewing area, it's a little more likely towards sunset. Here's 8 o'clock. Again, you're not seeing much here. Here's the GFS. GFS is a lower resolution or coarser model, so the blobs tend to be much less defined and just kind of, blobby, if that's a word. Whereas the NAM model is a higher resolution model. It's like having a camera with more megapixels. Everything is a little sharper and easier to see. Anyway, the GFS would suggest, just like the NAM, that we have a chance of a shower and thunderstorm by sunset tomorrow evening. And that threat will continue, I think, tomorrow night. Here's the middle of the night, Friday night. Front brings a shower, thunderstorm in spots. Now, Saturday, as we kick off the weekend, this front is essentially going to wash out. In other words, it's basically going to lose its characteristics as a boundary of any kind. But still, it may be just enough to spark a shower and thunderstorm here and there on Saturday. Here's Saturday afternoon. Again, there's not much. We have to allow for it, but we're not looking for a lot of coverage here for the wet weather during the course of Saturday. And then Sunday is certainly a dry day, and it's going to be a hot summer day coming up on Sunday. Check out these temperatures on the NAM model, showing mid-80s, but I think it can be a little warmer than that. I think it could be 88, 89, perhaps even flirting with 90 as the GFS has here on Sunday. So we might not hit 90, but it'll be awfully close. Now the humidity over the weekend will be what I would call moderate. When you have these hot sunny days, the atmosphere can get mixed up, and that actually helps us out in the humidity department. The drier air that's upstairs can get mixed down to the surface, and so the dew points tend to, in the afternoon anyway, kind of mix down into the lower 60s. And lower 60s dew points, and we kind of consider that moderate humidity. And you get that sort of thing going on a hot, sunny day in which the atmosphere can get a little bit turbulent. The drier air tends to work its way down from upstairs a little bit. All right, anyway, it's going to be hot Monday as well, and our next chance for some rain is coming our way Tuesday. Here's Tuesday's front, and behind this front, an area of high pressure will build in. We'll get a pretty good-looking day coming up on Wednesday, but then I think the heat's coming back. This pattern looks pretty interesting for the last 10 days of the month. Here's the upper-level pattern this weekend. Our heat ridge out west starts to nose east like this. So our heat definitely building in from the west over the course of the upcoming weekend. Now that midweek front is shown with kind of these blue colors here. Those are below average what we call heights, the distance from the ground up to a certain level of the atmosphere, in this case the 500 millibar level. And when you see the blues, that generally means there's a cooler air mass underneath those blue colors. So we get a brief cool down middle of the week. Then watch what happens here as we go into the last 10 days of August. The ridge doesn't build in from the west, but from the east. This Bermuda high, we haven't talked about that much this summer. A lot of times we get our really hot weather from these Bermuda highs that back in from, well, Bermuda over the Atlantic Ocean. So check out this kind of area down in through here, kind of this circular area or semicircular area. This is going to back in as we go towards the last week of August. And I think it's going to heat up, and our averages in late August aren't as high as they were back in July. So compared to the averages in particular, this may be the hottest stretch of the summer coming up the last 10 days of August. And as a lot of people have remarked, of course, just in time for the kids to go back to school and for the Canfield Fair in early September, when it always seems to be really, really hot. Here's the climate forecast system temperature departures from average for the 10-day period, 18th through the 28th. Lots of orange here across the east. So yeah, we're in for a warm stretch. It looks like once it kicks in this weekend, it's going to go pretty much uninterrupted, I should say, through the end of the month. Maybe a 1 or 2 day spell where you can get more seasonable temperatures, but overall, back half of August, looking pretty toasty. All right, thanks for watching Weather for Weather Geeks tonight. More social media posts this evening about the space station, of course, coming up as we get a little closer to that pass. And I look forward to seeing you tonight on 21 News at 11. Have a great night.